think that part of life and part of the beauty of life is some of that messiness, that trial and error. I think some of that's good. We learn from those experiences, and I don't know that there's just a one approach that's just right. But I think about college students. You and I know college students very well. We've worked with them for many, many years, and I think about how many students we've encountered that are on their third or fourth attempt at a college major.
Right.
They try something out because maybe someone said they'd make a lot of money. So they choose that as their major. They take one or two classes and realize that's not right. Well, let me change directions, and they'll change directions again. And the idea of a 6 or 7 year graduation, duration is very possible. And
common today.
And expensive.
And expensive.
I mean, if you think about that, and I think about, we have the privilege of working with Leadership Kanawha Valley here in West Virginia, where we're dealing with people of all ages that participate in a leadership academy where they learn more about, what it means to be a leader and learn about opportunities here in the valley. And how many people have we encountered that may be 40, 50, 60 years old that basically have said, after doing some of the things that you've suggested or hearing you guys talk, I realize I'm languishing. I'm not where I really want to be, and I want to make a change. And that's kind of at the heart of what we're talking about today. Parker Palmer, who we both really enjoy and I think are challenged by, he says that from the beginning, our lives lay down clues to selfhood and vocation, though the clues may be hard to decode. But trying to interpret them is profoundly worthwhile, especially when we are in our 20s or 30s or 40s, feeling profoundly lost, having wandered or been dragged far away from our birthright gifts. A consequence of only paying attention to those external voices is that I think that we deny ourselves one of the greatest opportunities of satisfaction, and that is of understanding, of discovering our distinguishing characteristics, those things that make us quite different from the person next to us. I was listening to probably one of the world's best philosophers this morning. I use Audible a lot.
Right.
And I was listening to an audiobook. It's only an hour and a half long, but this philosopher was talking about being special. Do you have any idea who that is? You know him. I know your boys knew him when they were growing up.
Now, you're putting me on the spot.
I know I am. Mr. Rogers.
Oh, yes, I have referred to
Rogers.
Mr. Rogers several. In fact, I just did this on my trip to Florida with my nephew.
Well, and I know your nephew is quite young, but he has a lot of really significant truths for us as well as adults. And he really was talking about that. No one has ever, he said, no one has ever existed like you, and no one ever will. And I believe, and I think you believe, we exist to perpetuate the evolution of the human race. And that's not just via procreation. I think that it is by identifying those unique characteristics, by exploring what we're going to talk about later, that personal owner's manual, and really delving deeply into that. And that individually, when we deny that individuality, when we deny that, we rob the world of our unique contribution. Well, and I think it robs the self. It robs us of the satisfaction of being right with the world around us.
Well, and that leads me to 2 points I want to make, and that is that if we get into a situation where we rob our young people of that potentiality, those choices, those options, shame on us. And I'm talking about from a societal standpoint. And I believe that we've headed down that yellow brick road, so to speak, for a long time. I want to go pick it back up on one thing to give you an example. I know that when I was doing some teaching at Marist College in Poughkeepsie, New York, a few years ago, and the students were working professionals for almost all of them, and they were in their 30s, 40s, even 50s. great number of them were IBMers because, you know, IBM has their regional headquarters there. And so they were working on a degree that would help them either get a promotion or move into another area. And I remember after the second class, this lady came into the class and she said, you know, I want to thank you. And I said, oh, have you already learned something? She said, oh, she said, you showed me the way. And I said, what do you mean I showed you the way? She said, I quit my job yesterday. And I said, excuse me, really? She said, yeah, because the things that we talked about in the first 2 weeks of class were so profound that I realized that I didn't stick to, as Parker Palmer says, my birthright gifts. And I was unhappy doing what I was doing. I can't remember what her, I think she was in real estate. And so she turned out to be one of the first of several people that we have since worked with in a variety of settings that decided I'm doing the wrong thing. And so one of the things, if there are parents watching this program, especially parents of children that are still in their formative exploratory years, do not stifle them in such a way that their birthright is taken from them.
Parker Palmer says, we arrive in this world with birthright gifts. Then we spend the first half of our life abandoning them or letting others disabuse us of them. As young people, we are surrounded by expectations that may have little to do with who we really are.
Right.
Expectations held by people not trying to discern our selfhood, but to fit us into slots.
That's right.
And
isn't that, and see, that frightens me, Tony, about the kind of world that we're creating from a technological standpoint. Now, you know, I have my challenges with technology, but I also love it, and I know that it has allowed us to do all kinds of things. But when the technology stifles the potential of a creative individual, whether she's 12 years old and can sing, or a woman that's 42 that's in real estate and realizes that she's in the wrong place at doing the wrong thing, I think we've got to create enough space to be able to do that.
I think you're exactly right. And fortunately, we are going to be able to pick this up in our next conversation, which is going to be very, very soon, because we're just beginning to scratch the surface of something that I think is just so important, so important. And while new information, technical prowess, you know, learning technical skills is so important, if you deny that deeper dimension of knowledge, of understanding how you're uniquely made, how you're crafted, and those things that really distinguish you from others, if you deny that, regardless of what you learn in a technical way, you're going to be dissatisfied ultimately.
That's
and
exactly
so
right.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Okay,
and
sir.
We appreciate you joining us for this program, and please stay tuned again for another program in the future.